Release the Kraken.
Welcome to the Too Old or Pure Gold Movie Podcast, where Gen X and younger generations revisit movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to see if they still hold up. In today's episode, we're discussing the 1989 underwater adventure movie, The Abyss. I'm your host, Olen Vanderleeden, representing Gen X. Joining me today is my Gen X co-host, Mathew Stockton.
Hello, everybody.
Representing the Millennials this week, we have Sci-Fi enthusiast Sean.
Hello.
And representing Gen Z, we have our rat rights activist, Nicole.
It's a good one.
But that's not all. We're also thrilled to have with us today a special guest for this very deep conversation. Today we're joined by Kirk Krack, one of the leading freediving educators and underwater performance specialists. Kirk is the founder of Performance Freediving International, where he has trained world champions, military special ops, and Hollywood actors in the art and safety of breath-hold diving. Kirk was also involved behind the scenes on Avatar, The Way of the Water, where he worked with James Cameron and trained the cast and crew for the film's groundbreaking underwater performance, Captured Scenes. Over a career spanning more than 3 decades, Kirk has logged thousands of dives in caves, wrecks, under ice, and at extreme depths, while also helping to pioneer modern freediving education and safety. Welcome, Kirk, and thanks for helping us break down this underwater spectacle today. We're really excited to have you on.
Excited to be here and looking forward to it.
Okay. First thing I'm going to do is just introduce the movie here. So The Abyss stars Ed Harris, Michael Biehn, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. This movie is directed by James Cameron, and I don't need to tell you about James Cameron, the greatest revenue director of all time. But if you don't know, he directed The Terminator and Aliens before this. He went on to direct many huge blockbusters, including True Lies. Kirk, we just did True Lies, and we had Peter Kent on, who was the stunt double for Schwarzenegger on that. So that was fun. James Cameron. He also did Avatar and Titanic. The tagline for the movie is, "A place on Earth more awesome than anywhere in space." That's kind of a cool tagline.
Yeah.
And IMDb describes the film as a civilian diving team is enlisted to search for a lost nuclear submarine and faces danger while encountering an alien aquatic species.
Sounds accurate.
Sounds accurate. So, what did you guys think of this movie? Just overall reaction to this before we start discussing it. Who wants to say?
I haven't seen this movie since I first saw it and was blown away with like how much more I got out of it and how just absolutely awesome this movie is. I loved this movie the second time around.
Sean, what'd you think?
I really liked this movie. It was a lot of fun. I don't know what I expected from the title, but it wasn't what I expected. That's for sure. But I give them a lot of credit for being, I feel, quite brave with some elements of the story at the end.
You know, and it feels like it's like this brief moment in time where Hollywood still believed that blockbuster audiences could handle sincerity, dread, philosophy, and technical obsession all at once. Like they pulled it all together, right? This movie has everything, in my humble opinion.
Nicole, do you agree?
I think it had a lot of really incredible moments, and it had a lot of potential, but I think as a whole it fell a little flat. I think there were a few things that maybe dragged it out too much or didn't really make a lot of sense. And overall, would I watch it again? Maybe one day, but not. I wouldn't be like, oh, I should watch it again right now. You know?
Actually, I watched it twice for this. I'll tell you what I think in a second. Kirk, did you rewatch this film?
No, I've only watched it again for about the 30th time. So, because I hate it so much.
All right.
And it's completely unrealistic. And yes, so that's why I watch it like several times a year.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
Well, you know, funny, I'm closest to Nicole in opinion here. So I hadn't seen this movie in 37 years. First of all, I forgot that it was about a sub. There's way more movies about lost nuclear submarines than I expected. And what I said is this is a bad movie with good ideas. I enjoyed watching it, But
Boo.
but
Olen.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe this isn't James Cameron's best work, but I am glad he landed on his feet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I think this is like one of Cameron's best movies.
And
Really?
I think
Like,
you're crazy.
This is an awesome movie. Come on, Olen, I'm disappointed in you, man.
Matthew, it's not very good.
Do
It's
do we
really,
just jump? Do we just jump in here
wait.
at any time?
yeah, fisticuffs.
We're starting right in.
I was disappointed because it had so much potential, and I love underwater movies like this. I love, like, underwater is terrifying. It's so scary. It would set it up so good to be like a good scary movie, but then there were just like so many things that dragged it down.
You just reminded me that when I was living in Moscow in the early 90s, I got a bootleg copy on DVD of Waterworld before all the special effects were added. So there are scenes where it's just somebody on a blue screen going like this, and you had one Russian voiceover doing all the voices. It was hilarious. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
So listen, let me jump in here.
Please.
Because clearly Olen and Nicole, right?
Are wrong.
You're both wrong. Yeah, you're both wrong. You're way out of your depth in this. And here's the reason why. That if you're a water person, for example, you would look at the abyss, and if you're a professional in the a water person, you look at the abyss, and you're actually astounded compared to most Hollywood how technically accurate it was, both in the science and what they were trying to do. Now, there was a stretch, right? This is kind of, supposed to be into the future, and there was unique diving systems and things like that. But it would have been really easy for any other director to go off and to make Leviathan or some of those other movies that came along that were, in my opinion, very hokey. Whereas this one was really kind of technically correct when you look at the sets and the depiction of what it looked like down there. Aliens aside, right? The only thing would be for the depth they were at, they would have been breathing helium, so they would have had these super high squeaky voices, which in real diving like that, you have this modulator that kind of, modulates your voice down so you can understand each other through communications. But you kind of get how the audience wouldn't be able to sit through listening to that. So it was good.
When you go really deep, you start to sound like Karen from Will and Grace.
Yeah, on helium, right? Yeah, Karen from her on helium. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I also think that, so that's really fascinating that it's technically was spot on. But, if you think about Cameron's films, for me, they're almost always secretly about people learning how to care for each other before catastrophe wipes them out. Like that's a theme in so many of I feel in so many of his movies. And what I love about this is the Abyss refuses cynicism. It's a movie that believes that empathy truly matters. So you have these great scenes and that worm water thing, which still blows me away. That was the first time we'd ever seen anything like that. But you have empathy between husband and wife and nations and everything. I don't know. I think it's a great film.
I think, listen, I think it had a lot of really good moments, and I think, like, none of my bad parts were about the plot or what was happening or the technical details. All my bad points were, like, movie making critiques. Like, I think the story was really incredible. I liked everything they were doing. I liked watching the scenes. I just think, like, could have been trimmed a little bit to make it make more sense. Could have introduced the characters a bit more, perhaps. All my critiques are from the movie-making perspective, not from the facts and the scenes. And
Well, we'll get into the details a little bit. Before we do, I just want to take a pause. And Kirk, I want to ask you about yourself a little bit, if I can. Like, how did you get into this space? How did you get into this, what sounds like a pretty specialized field?
So Kirk, are you a prairie boy? Were you a prairie boy?
Yeah, originally. So
Yeah, so that's what freaks me out. right? So tell us that story, man.
yeah, so I grew up in Saskatchewan. The land's so flat you watch your dog run away for 3 days. But the northern half of the province is, Canadian Shield and thousands of lakes. And my parents, we had a sailboat, and so we used to sail and snorkel. And at a very young age, I was put into swimming lessons just repeatedly over and over. By the time I was 15, 14, I was given scuba lessons as a birthday present. Ooh. And, I was just drawn to the water inexplicably. And, the story is by grade 10, I knew I was going to be a business owner at a young age, and I knew it would be aquatics or water-based. Had no idea it was going to go into diving, let alone my career and where it has taken me. So, yeah, from there, just a scuba instructor, then a technical diving mixed gas instructor, and then I got into free diving, and then, just kind of my whole life has been in and around this. Now, the interesting thing about The Abyss is it came out in August of 89. I had just become a brand new instructor in December of 88. I was just moving to the Cayman Islands when The Abyss came out. Okay. And little did I know back then that my life would intersect The Abyss in numerous ways. Number one, I'd be in Cayman because this takes place in the Cayman Trough, right? Number two, that I would meet James Cameron and work on Avatar for him, training his cast and crew. Number three, I would eventually start working for a company, Deep, that's the name of it, of which I've left several weeks ago, but that is making underwater habitats. And fourth, I was involved in a liquid breathing project. The actual liquid breathing to bring it, to see if we could bring it out of the hospital setting and actually into the real diving setting where it is possible. So, 30 some years later, here I am having kind of hit all of those milestones around this movie that for me changed my life. Because when I saw it, I was like, get me as deep as I can. Let me stay as long as I can. I just want to explore from the top of the water column to the bottom of the water column. So, amazing. Yeah, it's a kind of an interesting, story arc for me.
Currently, is liquid oxygen like something that is used in diving?
So it's actually called perfluorocarbon. So it's based on the fluorine molecule, and it's a liquid that kind of mimics plasma in a way, and it has the ability to hold more oxygen than the same volume of air does, and it can get rid of carbon dioxide, although not as good if you are working at a high metabolic rate. And so the idea is you flood your lungs with this stuff, and if you could circulate it and keep reoxygenating it, your lungs don't get compressed by pressure, and it takes care of a lot of things. Decompression sickness from the absorption of nitrogen, it takes care of narcosis, which is the high kind of narcotic effect that nitrogen can have on you. It can control oxygen toxicity from too much oxygen. So it would be this really amazing thing. And there have been people who, it's been used in the hospital setting for people who have had steam burns in the lungs or a way to bring out chemical irritation and things like that. It's a great way to deliver drugs through the respiratory system. But it's never really been used successfully in diving because the end result is when you remove the liquid from the person, there can then be these pneumonias. So this working group I was with for 3 days, which had some of the experts in it and in operations, some of the engineers, the original developers, we all, after 3 days breaking into our working groups, out of like 37 of us, I think, 35 of us said, yes, in 5 years, with an X amount of money, we could go to 300 meters for 2 hours and come straight to the surface. 2 people said, thumb sideways, but no one said thumbs down. And so that's where it stands. It's a real thing. It can happen. And in fact, when you see Hippie put the mouse under perfluorocarbon, that was a real scene. And I think
they really
also
did
got
that.
in trouble from the SPCA. They really did that.
Yeah, that's true. I had that in the trivia.
Wow. Have you, Kirk, did you ever work at Pinewood Studios, the underwater stage there in the UK? Do you do
Pinewood?
Do you do the tank work, or do you do like in real water work mostly?
No, so I worked at Leavesden Studios in the UK. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I trained Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson for Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I used to live in the UK, and a friend of mine does a lot of set design, so I was always going to Pinewood, and that tank
Oh,
is so
okay.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't really work in the movie industry. I get brought in as a
yes, you
subject
do.
matter expert to
Okay.
train the cast and to train the cast and crew, right?
Yeah.
However, after 2.5 years full time on Avatar in LA, and then another 4 years with 3-4 months at a time in New Zealand and back and forth, I feel like I work in Hollywood, but that's not my main gig.
And have you seen the Deepest Breath, the doc? What did you think of that documentary? I cry every time I see it.
Yeah, yeah. I have troubles watching a lot of diving movies
Yeah.
simply because I sit there going, "Oh, give me an effing break," right? Just because sometimes they're so overinflated or too dramatic or whatever. A problem I have with freediving movies is it's always the tragic love story. And
Yeah.
freediving, breath hold diving is so much more than that. But no, it's, what happened there is definitely tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell us what it was like working with James Cameron on Avatar. I'm really curious about working with Tom Cruise too, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. So working with James Cameron, that'd be like saying, so what's it like helping Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel? What's it like, holding Salvador Dali's paint easel, right? James Cameron is like an incredible artist. He's, an incredible painter, but he has to do it through 500 plus people, right? He can't hold the brush. He can't like pick out the canvas. He's got to have all these people do these things. And when you see him be able to paint such amazing works of art that will stand the test of time in a way through all of these people, it's just a fantastic process. I think most of all, what, especially from the Avatar point of view for me, was his dedication to the realism. Avatar is in our reality, right? This isn't the Marvel universe. People don't fly. There's no laser beams coming out of people's eyes. Avatar takes place in our reality, just in the future on another planet. So the real physics of the world apply. And
Right.
so one of the things that was amazing and really says so much about James Cameron is it would have been cheaper, it would have been easier, it would have been faster to just let the computer nerds say this is what diving looks like and CGI and animate it, right? And you could say who would know? But just like if you watch someone walking, and there's about 1,200 micro movements in that walk. If you get the best person to try and animate it, it looks great, but you'll be like, there's something
Yeah.
there, right? You'll pick up on those 10 micro movements that don't make sense, and you can't pick them out. You just know it doesn't work. Doesn't
You
work.
feel it. Yeah.
So he, in doing the water, against everyone trying to say, do it faster, cheaper, he said, I'm still doing it in the water. Because he has this ethos that says you can take the person away, the audience, you can remove them from the movie one time. Meaning you're watching it and you go like, oh, that was weird, or, oh, give me a break. If you do it more than one time, then you've lost the audience for the whole of the movie,
Yeah.
right? So I recall a scene we were shooting in New Zealand. We spent 5 days shooting this scene, and it was about 3 seconds long. Like we were going to get the accuracy and the realism of that. And probably no other director would do that. But here's what you can bank on. $1 billion revenues,
Yeah.
right? So when James Cameron says, I'm going to make a movie, you just keep writing checks till I tell you to stop and never ask me when it's going to be done, people line up because they know he'll produce a blockbuster. And so to work for someone like that, with all of his nuances, it's an honor and just amazing to watch kind of artistry in action.
Cool. And what other films have you worked on or been involved in?
Well, so I've done both the Avatars, Mission Impossible. I worked on Suicide Squad. I trained Margot Robbie for when the pink Lamborghini crashes into the water with the Joker and Harley Quinn like smashes through the front window of the pink Lamborghini, and Batman punches her out and brings her to the surface. So I trained her for that scene, and I actually, that was my first ever stunt. I got to be Batman in that. So,
Cool.
So that is my ultimate claim to fame. I was the Batman. Right?
Did you do Wakanda Forever?
I worked on Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and in that I was really one of the bridges between the technical experts of the world's smallest submersible, which was a newt suit, a human-looking Iron Man-like one atmosphere suit, and the movie. So kind of made sure that all worked out. And then I've done a lot of documentary work.
That's great.
Okay, so you trained Tom Cruise, right? That's so cool.
Yeah.
I know that, or at least I read that he could hold his breath for 6 minutes by the time he was ready to go for the movie. Is that true?
Yeah. He did a dry breath hold with me in training that was just over 6.5 minutes.
That's incredible. So how long can you hold your breath if you have to?
Using air. In water, I've done 7 minutes.
Wow.
A couple of decades ago. I'm right next door to a friend of mine and an instructor of mine who holds his breath just shy of 9 minutes.
Oh,
Nate Leeser's his name, right? And hardly any brain damage at all from that.
I can't even do it for 30 seconds and I'm still brain damaged.
That's fascinating. I think the world record for holding breath underwater was just broken. I feel like I read that recently.
Yeah. Yep, there's a woman who's done 9:40 now, she's up to, and the men's world record is 11:35. This is using air and using 100% oxygen as a breathing gas beforehand, which helps, is just shy of 30 minutes.
wow.
When it's your time to work during a movie, does the director yell, "Release the Kraken"?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'll edit that out.
One thing that's interesting in the movie industry that I kind of changed in a way was the directors are used to saying in action, right? But you can't be a freediver coordinated with a whole bunch of other freedivers and suddenly in action and you're like, everyone's, suddenly you have to hold your breath. So we go through a breathe up process. So in fact, we changed it where we got the whole production on a countdown clock. So in working with Tom Cruise and all of them, but, especially with James Cameron, we had these massive flat screens with this countdown timer. And Jim would say to me, after he briefed Kate Winslet on her scene, he'd say, "Kirk, how are we going to do this?" And I tell him, well, I'm going to weight her neutrally buoyant and trim her balance here, and I'm going to help her at this point because I'm not in a dotted suit, so you don't see me. I'm in every scene in Avatar underwater. I'm just, you never see me, although I did a stunt that you can pick me out. But then I tell him how long we need to breathe up, and then they start the countdown clock. 2 minutes, minute 30, 1 minute, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And in that timing, they have to then spool up and get everything ready to go, and action happens when we actually get to zero and we coordinate our last breath and go. So it's kind of like reversing it a little bit. So there's lots of amazing stories in trying to do that because some of those breath holds we did were over 4.5 minutes long while trying to shoot a scene.
Wow.
That is
fascinating.
Incredible.
Well, let's talk about the movie a little bit then, and some of the thoughts that I had about this movie. First thing that came to mind for me is how often do people lose nuclear submarines? Because Hollywood would have you believe that it happens a lot, but I actually looked it up. If you're curious, I looked up the stats because I thought this seemed weird. So the actual total of how many subs have been lost under the ocean is 900.
There you go.
40,000 people have died in subs underwater. 9 of them were nuclear. So
more than you
So
want.
we're losing nuclear subs all the time. And just if you guys are curious, there's 200 submarines underwater at any given time, which means there's 20,000 people that live under the ocean.
And there's 4 in a shopping mall in Edmonton.
So, Kirk, did you know that many actors actually almost drowned on this movie?
Yeah, I know some of this. I've heard of them. I've heard some of the stories from Jim himself.
Oh, did you, the Ed Harris story? I'm just gonna tell it for people here. At least I'll tell you what I heard, and you can
Yep.
tell me if you've heard different.
Yep.
But Ed Harris actually almost drowned on this movie. He got to the point where, he was needing assistance. There's guys that come and assist and give you air when you need it when you're under
Safety divers.
Safety divers. So he got to the point where he needed a safety diver, and then when he signaled, the safety diver got caught up in cables and couldn't reach him. And he started to panic. He almost drowned. And then the story I heard also is that Ed Harris took a swing at James Cameron when he came out because James kept filming through the whole thing.
Well, you don't want to miss that's some good footage, man.
Probably added to the realism.
Yeah, really.
Method acting.
He's an
right?
artist.
It's pretending to drown.
The other thing that fascinated me, this is bringing some of the trivia forward a little bit, but this was filmed in a nuclear reactor in South Carolina, and that reactor housing became the largest underwater set in the world with 7.5 million gallons, which is 11 Olympic pools worth of water.
Wow.
So they weren't kidding around on this.
No. Fascinating.
Kirk, what is your favorite dive-based movie?
Well, I have to tell you, Avatar: The Way of Water, but it is. Well, in fact, both the last Avatars and Fire and Ash, I mean, the water scenes in there are absolutely incredible. And I think I appreciate them more because I know the links of how we got Sigourney Weaver and Kate Winslet and the kids. Like some of my kids, some of the cast were 6 to 16 years old, of which my daughter doubled for one of them.
Oh, fun.
For a day. And then you had, the adult cast, Sigourney Weaver was 69 at the time, and they just did some amazing stuff. But I mean, that aside, Abyss is my next most favorite movie. Yeah, hands down. And then you have stuff like, from a freediving point of view, there's Into the Blue by Luc Besson.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, which I think some people look at it and think it's kind of campy a little bit, but from a freediver's point of view, again, like if you're living it and you watch it, you can move past the campiness and you can enjoy the water aspect of it. Into the Blue was another great one that had a lot of breath holding and freediving in it. In fact, a really good friend of mine was the underwater DP on that. He also was the underwater DP on Avatar, so Pete Zuccherini. Him and I would actually work on Suicide Squad together as well. And then, another great one is Sanctum. And Sanctum is just, a cave diving kind of, it isn't strange monsters trying to get them. It's just like, they gotta keep getting out of the cave and following it because of the weather and the flooding and all that sort of stuff, which kind of prescient nowadays in the last couple of cave things we've heard about. So those are all really great movies, but definitely the Avatar stuff and then the Abyss.
Cool. Okay, well, a couple other questions. You look like you have to say something, Nicole.
No, I'm just fascinated. I'm just having a great time.
This is a great conversation, and I could talk about this stuff all day. I have a couple other questions about this film. Sean is our nuclear bomb expert. Why are all nuclear bombs diffused with one wire?
Safety.
Yeah, you don't want to make it a little trickier so people can't just diffuse them that easily?
I don't think they tend to be launched when they're sent at someone, so I'm not sure it matters.
Okay.
What if they're launched really slowly underwater? like
Well,
what was
I
happening?
don't think it was designed for that. Though I am curious how they would actually be diffused, because it probably isn't as complicated as you would think.
Yeah, the one wire thing always makes me laugh. Nicole, why did Bud keep his wedding ring in the toilet?
See, I was wondering about that as well, because he didn't flush it down the toilet. Does
No.
that mean every time he had to use the toilet, he went and he took his wedding ring out and he put it on the counter, and then he used the toilet, and then he put the wedding ring back in? Like,
No. Hang on. You're missing it.
Okay.
am I?
He got mad at Lindsay, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Threw the
bitch.
ring.
And then he
Yeah.
ran to the toilet and threw it in and then went
Yeah.
to walk away and then realized, he still loves her. And reached in and then he has the blue arm for the rest of it.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes though was when the wedding ring saved him by catching in the door, and then it didn't cut off his fingers and it kept the door propped open. That was an awesome detail.
Good callback.
I actually have a friend whose hand was saved by his wedding ring when an engine fell on his hand when doing mechanic work.
Oh.
Oh wow.
See, I'm the opposite. I wear rubber because I've seen too many people get their fingers ripped off from wedding rings.
Yeah.
Also a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, should we roll right into best parts of this movie? Do you guys want to talk about that?
I have,
Yeah, absolutely.
I have two.
I have way more best parts than I have worst parts.
Okay, somebody go. Best parts.
So the CPR scene is one of the best scenes in a Cameron movie ever, because it's brutal and it's messy, and he's trying to save her life, and that scene feels horrifyingly real to me.
I agree.
And then I love then when she like insults him as soon as she wakes up is great. And then my other best part is that water tentacle scene, because like I can remember when I first saw it, that was the first time any of us saw CGI like that, and it was like the coolest effing thing in the world, and it still looks good. So those are my two.
Although in that scene I had a worse part, which was tasting an alien. She sticks her finger in and tastes him. I'm like,
Why did she do that?
that's
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Oh, no.
Right?
so.
When I see something weird that I don't understand, my first thought is not, I should lick it.
Lick it.
Okay.
If it kills you, it kills you.
Best parts for me, I had the submarine chase, sort of the crash up derby with the submarines. I thought it was fantastic. I love that. And then the jumping off the cliff scene for me still haunts me at the end when he's jumping. See, Kirk, not for you, but for lots of people, water is terrifying, right? And just the idea, that vision of him just going deeper and deeper and deeper. I don't know. To me, that was terrifying. And then I just said kind of the claustrophobia that they created in this whole movie.
They did a great job setting the tone.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes was when the rig started, like when it fell and then it started filling with water.
Yeah.
Watching everyone rush around as a team trying to like close off areas so they don't all drown. Like the way they were rushing around and everyone was just panicking, it felt realistic and it was really scary. I thought it was cool.
Sean, what's your favorite part of this movie?
I mean, there's a lot of scenes I really liked, and a lot of them have been named. I really enjoyed the crane falling into the ocean. They did a really good job of the suspense of just like, well, really hope that doesn't hit us. And then it potentially dragging them over the side. I thought that was very well
the
done.
whole thing looked incredible. And it felt, like most of it felt very realistic. It just looked incredible. I loved it visually.
And it's a bit more general, but I really like the atmosphere in this movie, and they did a really good job, I feel like, of building up the feel. It felt isolated in the beginning, and then the hurricane hits, and they get disconnected from the surface, and they do such a good job of just making them feel so isolated and trapped.
Yeah.
Agreed. Kirk, what was your favorite part about this movie?
Oh, there's so many, right? When you see them climbing around, they don't have fins on, and they're like climbing around on stuff. I had just worked at West Edmonton Mall as a diver, and we used to go climb on the rocks where the subs went without fins on, right? Sometimes for fun, and we'd climb around the sub. So like that thing came out, and I was like, oh my god, I've done this. And so I kind of, I really enjoyed that part of it because I could relate to it. I want to get back to the CPR scene. That thing looked authentic and real in a way. Some people say, well, the CPR maybe didn't look, but you can't actually compress a person's chest. So, there's that component there. But one thing about that scene that annoys me, though, being a freediver is, and if we can go to the thing we don't like, is,
yeah, do it.
Is they're in the sub, it's flooding, they have one helmet left, and he's gonna give it, Lindsay's saying, Virgil, you gotta wear it because you're the better breath holder and blah, 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 and the cold will put me into hypothermia and slow my heart rate down. Like, all that is that's great, technically correct. So he puts the helmet on, and then he sits there watching her slowly drown, and then slowly drown, and he's holding her for minutes upon minutes. And as the free diver in me, I would be like, okay, well, he got an airspace. She should be breathing up, hold her breath, and then he'd have grabbed her and made a swim for it, right? Instead of drowning, like you could have knocked off minutes of the drowning and got straight to the rescue. So there's that point of me where I was like, the real Virgil Brigman in that situation would know to start that breathing now, and we're going to do a breath hold for as long as we can. So that's a technical point from an expert. Right?
I did have watching your wife drown on Worst Parts. So I got to agree with you. I was like, why aren't they just starting now? Why is he sitting still and watching her drown instead of like taking her back?
Yeah. But you needed that dramatic effect of exactly that, watching your wife drown before you. So, yeah.
See, and I was just too distracted by the unpleasantness of thinking about watching your wife drown that it didn't dawn on me.
You'd be bad in a free diving crisis.
So I had under worst parts, not bad part of the film, but just a terrifying part is fire on a sub. To be in that underwater facility and have fire must be terrifying.
But there's so much water around to put out the fire.
But Kirk, you talked about the idea of things that take you out of the film. You know what took me out of this film was Chris Elliott in a serious role.
Yeah.
I love Chris Elliott, but to see him in a serious role, I'm like, no, now this film is bullshit.
But doesn't Ed Harris give one of the greatest exhausted man performances of all time in this film? Like he like plays the exhausted man from life, right?
I think because they were.
They were, and that
was method acting, right?
Yeah, it's like it's hard not to think about the production trauma behind this when you watch the film sometimes, right? Like it, especially once you've heard a few things, it's because the film's about human compassion and like the danger and how people were pushed psychologically and physically. You're like, holy crap, right? This would have been a difficult movie to make.
Yep.
Absolutely. So imagine being the cast, and there you are in the water for 8 hours at night, basically, because it's a dark set. You know, you do get cold, and they did get cold, and the chlorine was having effects on their skin and everything. Yeah. And after months later, it's not that hard to fake exhaustion, right? It just shows on your face and everything. So in a way, that lent to the atmosphere of it, I think.
Apparently, the cast of the film referred to the film as the abuse while filming. And Ed Harris to this day refuses to talk about his experience on set.
Wow.
Well, I think there's a great quote by Ed Harris. He said, "The abyss was many things. Fun was not one of them."
Wow.
But Ed, you made an excellent movie. One of my
maybe you have to suffer for art sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna miss a best part and a worst part together because I think an important best part is, I don't know how to say his last name. Is it Michael Bean, the guy who played
great mustache?
Michael Bean, the guy who played Lieutenant Coffey. Absolutely amazing job playing a person going crazy.
Oh yeah.
It was very convincing, and I really, really liked his job of it. But on the other end, the military villain angle is very common, and even in the military, I feel like that guy drifted into Crazy Town so far that his men would not be following anymore long before they actually started questioning.
Stop eventually, which I appreciated. One of my worst parts.
They did, but
one of my worst parts was an already unstable, power tripping man having the sea crazies and access to a nuclear weapon.
Am I the only one who constantly mixes up Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and Amy Irving? Am I the only one? Especially in the 80s and the 90s, they kind of had the same hair, and like whenever I saw them in movies, I'm like, which one is it?
Yep.
Still on Sean's point here, I just wanted to say in best parts, I had Michael Bean's mustache.
I knew you were going to put that.
Olen often does the mustache score on movies. Kirk,
I'm a fan of 80s mustaches.
All right.
I also just remembered, and I want to tell everyone, because we watched it together, me and Olen. We were sitting and we were watching it, and we don't talk when we're watching them because we want to save our thoughts for the podcast. But we're sitting there silently. He just went, "I hate that everything's so wet."
Yeah. That was one of my worst parts. I'm sure it's realistic, but on that underground facility, like just everything's dripping all the time. I found it quite unpleasant. So is that your favorite line?
That's my favorite line, not from the movie, just from you.
Okay.
It's just so funny because they're underwater.
I want to tell you guys how this film did, but do you have any favorite lines you want to throw out there before I move on?
Yeah.
Sniff something,
wrote
rat
some
boy.
I have a few that I'll throw out there. I like Lindsay's line of, "We all see what we want to see. Coffee looks and sees Russians. He sees hate and fear. You have to look with better eyes than that." I like the messaging behind it. I like the line. On the humorous side from Lindsay also, I liked "These guys are about as much fun as a tax audit." That's an insult I'm going to remember. And then from a story perspective early on, I like Virgil's line of, "She didn't leave me, she just left me behind." It's a simple line that I think conveys their relationship and their challenges very well.
And my favorite line was, "They want to know if we're worth saving," because it makes you
Very good one as well.
pause and wonder if we really are.
This makes all my favorite lines feel very shallow.
You are who you are.
Because I also had, "That guy don't know his butt from a rat hole."
Okay, well, I am going to tell you guys how this did, and Kirk, maybe you know already, but when we do the podcast, I tell everybody not to research it. We reveal this stuff live, but according to Box Office Mojo Worldwide, The Abyss was the 24th biggest earner at the box office in 1989. So this is the year that Batman was the biggest earner at the box office, and it was gigantic. It was a competitive year for movies. So The Abyss was beat by Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Back to the Future 2, and Christmas Vacation. But 24th isn't so bad. In a year like this, The Abyss beat out a bunch of great movies. Star Trek IV, Black Rain with Michael Douglas, and my favorite film of all time. Anybody?
Rambo?
Roadhouse.
Oh.
Olen, my husband, said if there's one karate chop and two boobs in a movie, Olen likes
He's
it.
right.
I think it's the other way. I think it's 2 karate chops and 1 boob.
Yeah. Fair. Driving Miss Daisy was the Oscar winner this year, and The Abyss actually won for Best Visual Effects, beating out Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that.
Was this the
deserved
same year
it.
as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids,
it,
the one
yes,
we just did?
it is.
Okay, because this will help me figure out the money. Because I was gonna say the amount of money, which was about Honey I Shrunk, but it's way lower than Honey I Shrunk the Kids in terms of box office. So it's making me rethink.
Well, you can guess. The budget for this was $70 million. So what do you think it did the box office?
100 million.
150.
Yeah, I don't think it was crazy.
24.
For the time, I'm gonna guess.
What do you think
it
it
didn't
did,
make
Kirk?
a lot. 24.
24.
It did 90 million. So it, yeah.
Yes, I won.
That's not really a moneymaker because, of course, they put money into promotion over top of the budget. So, you know, maybe it's been more appreciated in the day. So, Kirk, my favorite part of this podcast, we like to play the Rotten Tomato game, which is I'm sure you're familiar with the Rotten Tomatoes scale, right?
Yep.
It's just
we call it tomato. We call it tomato.
Mathew does, nobody else. But basically, it's how many people out of 100 said that this was, you know, good enough to go see. Critics and audience, who would do you know the scores, Kirk?
I don't.
Okay, so you can guess too.
I know it wasn't well liked.
Okay, how many out of
You can
100?
play.
How many critics do you think liked this movie, Kirk? And out of 100, how many regular people do you think liked this movie? You can take a guess first.
I would say critics that liked it 30%, public that liked it 50%.
Ooh. Kirk obviously hasn't played this game very much.
Throwing him under the bus.
Okay, Olen, I am going to say it's one of these odd ones where usually when some audience loves a movie, I hate it. But I'm going to give critics and audience equal 89%.
Oh,
This
very
is a
high.
good movie, guys, and you can't say it's not.
Okay.
I'm gonna give critics. We're gonna call it 60. I think it's gonna be somewhere around there, and I think audience will be a bit higher in the 70s. So let's do 71.
I'm closer to Mathew. I feel like an 80, 85.
Okay. So the answer is critics. 75% of critics said this was good. Get out and see it. And 83% of the audience.
Okay.
So, Kirk, you're a lovely person, but you got a 78, which is the losing score here. Low score wins.
You're deep in the bottom there.
Yeah,
It's one might
you're
say.
in the abyss with your score. Sean got a 27, Mathew got a 20, and Nicole, you got a 7. You win.
Ooh, Nicole.
Nice.
Okay, so just a couple of facts on this. I've told you about a lot of the facts already, but just a few others. Very few stunt people were used in the film. So all of the actors became certified divers to do this film.
That's impressive.
That's very cool.
The CGI effects were some of the first ever used, and they were reused in T2 for the liquid metal. So that was really groundbreaking CGI.
Oh,
Yeah.
I totally see that.
And 40% of the movie is underwater.
That's less than I would have.
That's much less than I would
I
have.
thought 90% was underwater.
Do
No,
we
no,
mean
literally
swimming
bodies in
underwater,
water.
or
not
they're?
when
Oh,
you're
I
in
see.
the facility.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
like filming
I'm like-
wise.
I'm like, we were on a boat a few times.
Okay. And last thing that's interesting to me, anyhow, is the scene where they fired the machine gun into the pool. They used live ammunition.
Wow.
So
Oh.
hope there's no cameramen down there.
God, I hope so.
Or stunt coordinator.
So woke or joke, Kirk, we have a category where we just say anything that hasn't aged well. I have one.
Go for it.
Making a live rat breathe liquid oxygen.
Yep. Yep.
Because
Torturing a little rat.
as you said, Kirk, they really did that. Like it's the real thing, and they really did it on the rat, and he really survived.
You know, when I was watching that, I'm like, how did they do that? Right? Because that's not a CGI rat. And I was like, how did they do that? Did they get another one wet and make it look? You know, that's.
I
just
had
really
it
did it.
worse parts before I knew it was a real rat. Now that I know it's a real rat, I'm even more upset by this.
I know I don't think you could get away with that today.
I don't think that guy needed to do a demonstration either. I don't think he needed to snatch some guy's beloved pet off his shoulder and be like, let me drown it for you for a second. Do you want to watch your lovely pet drown?
Kirk, I have a question for you. So when I was a
Yeah.
kid, so I was one of these kids that could probably swim before I could walk, right? So we lived in southwestern Ontario, had a cottage on Lake Huron, and from
Yep.
a very early age, I loved blowing all of the air out of my lungs and sitting on the bottom of Lake Huron and just looking up and looking around. Did I miss my calling? Did I miss a calling?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. In fact, yeah. You just
Damn.
needed to keep it up.
Ah, damn.
I also love doing that. I was always a water girl.
Yep. I've always been a water boy too. I love swimming in the ocean,
as well.
swimming underwater, swimming deep.
I was a water boy, and then I discovered boys, and I lost my calling.
Then you were a boy.
Moving on the categories to reviews, however you guys felt about this movie. I promise you there's others who liked it more or less than you. For this movie, there were 123 10-star reviews out of 578 total.
That's pretty
So
good.
just a couple of quotes. The most ambitious underwater film ever made. Do you agree, Kirk?
At the time, yeah.
James Cameron's most underrated film. Mathew, do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is his best film, frankly.
One of the greatest endings in science fiction. We haven't talked about the ending.
Well, because there is an extended version which has even more stuff going on in the ending, but we didn't watch the extended version.
Yeah.
So there's a lot
I
about
did.
the ending. I watched
I
it
did.
later on YouTube, but I didn't watch it. Like, I watched the parts that were cut out, but I didn't watch it as a whole.
I watched the non-extended version twice, so that's how I extended it. Okay,
The movie was so long already that I didn't know that that wasn't the extended version until I went to talk to my cousins about the movie after, because they love this movie. And they were like, yeah, what'd you think of, like, the huge tsunami thing? I was like, what? What do you mean? They're like, well, you watched the extended version, right? I was like, well, it was super long, so I assumed. I was wrong.
So the base version is not super long at 2 hours and 20.
That's a pretty long movie.
Well, Kirk, one thing we've noticed about the younger generation on this show is that generally they like everything to be tight 90. So,
I
90,
disagree.
90 seconds, you mean?
You
someone
disagree,
who's-
but you disagree, but you always say they were too long.
I always say they were too long when I have other complaints about the movie. My favorite movie of all time is Lord of the Rings, and I watched the full extended versions while sitting through
That's
all
true.
three. So I'm not complaining about length of movies unless there are other issues.
well, when we have Will on, definitely.
Does it bother you when
Yeah.
you're at a theater watching it and you can't do this?
No, because I bring my crocheting
Okay.
and I crochet while I watch.
Okay.
She crochets while she watches movies.
I
Okay.
crochet or I bring a fidget toy, and I love sitting and
Wow.
watching a movie.
So, to be fair, I just want us to hear from the people who didn't like it. 13 people.
To be fair,
13 people gave it a 1-star review, and here's what they had to say. A spectacularly expensive scuba diving argument. It's odd.
boo.
It's like Alien underwater, except slower and wetter.
Sounds like your comment.
2 hours of panic attacks followed by the aquatic close encounters.
Jesus,
For a negative review, that's
I was
pretty
gonna
accurate,
say.
actually.
it's funny.
Like, I don't agree with their rating, but I do agree with their plot summary.
And
Yeah.
the last comment, the ending feels like Spielberg hijacked a submarine movie.
Oh my god.
Okay,
Interesting.
well, let's consult the professionals, Siskel and Ebert. Do you guys think they liked it or not?
Probably.
Yes.
You think they both liked it? All right.
Yeah.
Two thumbs up.
Siskel said he enjoyed the claustrophobic underwater tension, but thought the alien storyline was weak. He gave the movie a thumbs up, and he gave the alien a thumbs down.
Okay.
Ebert said the alien was fun and the movie was fun. He said it had great special effects and he enjoyed it a lot. He gave it a thumbs up.
There you go. Thank you, boys.
So maybe I'll ask Kirk this question. Kirk, do you think they should remake this, or do you think there should be a sequel coming for this film?
You know, there's some things you just don't want to touch, right? It'd be like trying to remake Star Wars: The New Hope. Yeah, I don't know. I know. I don't think we should. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks, oh, that the way you could technically do it now and the future of diving would just be that much more incredible. But I don't know. I'm going to say no. I just love it the way it is.
Imagine trying to ask Ed Harris to do it again.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd have to kidnap him. I don't
we
think he'd
need
go
you.
that way.
This is a interesting movie because I think you're in a I don't think you should touch it in terms of remake. Make a different story if you want to remake it. There's lots of underwater stories you could tell. In terms of sequel, this one is strange because it would have to be a different genre. Like you'd have to be very contrived to do a sequel that had the same feel as this movie, especially considering the aliens reveal themselves. Like the state
you'd
of the
have to
world
go
is
into
so different
space
at
in
the
a
end.
sequel, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a totally different sequel in terms of feel.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there are aliens in the ocean?
That's a really hot topic these days. There's lots of people talking about all these alien ships that they see going super fast in the ocean and that kind of thing.
Octopus. So they're aliens of the ocean.
So
Yeah.
Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who was also the former involved in NOAA, he's a big proponent of saying that there's in fact, and he knows that there's aliens under the water. And this past November, I actually toured him the Vanguard underwater habitat when I worked at Deep. So I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask, but wasn't the appropriate time then to do it. So I would tend to say probably yes, if you believe in that sort of thing, the best place to hide, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think if you believe in aliens,
I mean,
they're probably in the ocean.
if you have interstellar travel, you don't need to be in the ocean to hide from us. And if you just live in the ocean, then are you alien anymore? Because isn't alien like someone that's foreign to your area, so foreign to your planet in this case? So if they live in the ocean, they're not alien.
But what if they settled in the ocean? They were from space, and then they were like, ooh, we like the ocean.
They're no longer alien.
Guess you're assuming they're aliens in the first place.
Right. Maybe they've always been there.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a very common conspiracy theory, so I'm always curious people's thoughts.
Well, I have to say the ocean is just such a great subject for a movie because it is sort of claustrophobic and scary and kind of it's like a sci-fi, like space underwater. It's really cool.
Actually, the best place to hide would be in Shia LaBeouf's career.
All right. I love the ocean. It's one of my favorite things in the world. It's also terrifying. I don't think anyone who really loves the ocean also has to have a respect for how scary it could be.
So Kirk, we didn't ask you what is the coolest dive you've done and what's the deepest you've dived?
So on scuba, I've done 550 feet, so about 178 meters, 68 meters, yeah, 558 or 550 feet. On breath hold, I've done, it's funny, I know meters in diving and or feet in diving and meters in free diving. And free diving, I've done 115 meters on breath hold.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's very impressive.
Amazing. And what's the coolest dive you've ever done?
Yeah, so that's a hard question, but one of the most amazing places I've been diving would be in Indonesia, where it's like the rest of the oceans were 50 to 100 years ago. I mean, largely untouched. The biodensity and the biodiversity there is just absolutely incredible, and you can sit in one spot and just watch this world's best aquarium go by if you didn't want to have to swim. So it's also a little depressing because the rest of the world kind of used to be like that, and now it's only there because of all the effects we're having on it.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Well, it's really interesting, Kirk. Like, I'm on the 40th floor, so that's about 550 feet, and I'm looking down. And when you think in terms of air, it doesn't seem too far, but then when you're like water, suddenly it's way deeper, right?
yeah, absolutely. And that dive on scuba was only 15 minutes long, so it took me 5 minutes to get down there.
Wow.
I was there for 10 minutes, so a total of 15. Then it took me 6.5 hours to decompress.
Wow.
And starting my first stops at 350 feet, and then 340, and then 330, and my last decompression stop was at 15 feet, and that was 93 minutes.
Yeah.
So I would take down chapters of a book and read them, and at
That's
decompression,
incredible.
Right?
If I stepped off my balcony, I have a feeling I'd be down there for a lot longer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Did you really bring a book?
No, not the whole book, but I'd take one chapter. I'd take only what I could read because once you flip the page, it turned into pulp, right?
Yeah.
So I was reading Mario Puzo, The Last Dawn.
Wow.
I've never thought about
Chapter
how
by
you would
chapter.
entertain yourself
That's fun.
waiting at the decompression
Yeah,
stops.
that's cool.
You gotta do
Nowadays, they have Game Boys and things on their computers they can play
Of
with.
course.
I do have one more just technical question about this movie. At the depth that Bud went, it was like 17,000 feet, like 4 miles or something.
Yep.
Could a person even dive that deep without the water pressure killing them?
Well, so
like it
that
would
was the
kill them.
whole, that was the whole premise of liquid breathing. So if all of the air spaces are now filled with liquid functionally being incompressible, then you don't have to worry about some of the effects of partial pressure of gases, of compressing, gas spaces or air spaces. But what ends up happening is physically the meat and tissue of you are still getting compressed. So part of the thing they talked about was HPNS, high pressure neurological syndrome. And we usually think of that from the high partial pressures of helium causes kind of nervous, twitch, irritability, things like that, tremors and shakes, which you see in coffee, right? He's like paranoid and he's a little shaky all the time. But even in liquid breathing, the physical compression on the myelin sheath between the synapses would stop things happening. So really to do it, it's more of a biopharmacological, what would be the Parkinson's type drug that you would take at depth, that on the surface would probably adversely affect you, but at depth actually works in your favor. And then on your way back up, how do you decompress off the drug? How do you wash out that so you can come back to the surface? So yeah, whether we could do that ultimate depth, I would expect probably not. Simply your tissues just get compressed too much.
Yeah, because even like the submarine exploded at a much higher depth. So I was curious about that.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting him to not survive that.
That was hands down my favorite scene, is just seeing him slowly sinking down into that trench. It's kind of cool. Okay, well, we are at the end of the podcast, but we do have to wrap it up with, is this movie too old or pure gold?
So it swings at something enormous. I wrote this down, the idea that empathy is more advanced than violence, and it does it inside an underwater sci-fi thriller made by men willing to drown nearly half of Hollywood to achieve realism. And that combination will never happen again, so it's pure gold.
That's a lovely way to put it. To me, this movie is pure gold. I love I love what the story is trying to say. I love the message of the story. I love that it's so much underwater. I've always loved the water as well, and I think that's so much fun. I think they actually do a pretty good job with the aliens. Maybe a little shallow, but I like what they're doing. Again, I like the message. I like what it's saying, and the acting is so good throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's good. So there's a lot of fun stuff in here. Just the whole underwater part and what it took for them to pull this film off, for me, makes it pure gold. And of course, I love talking about it with you, Kirk.
Yeah, I originally settled on too old. I think, or I thought, with a little bit of like tweaking and editing, it could very well be one of the best movies, like pure gold. But I just think there were a few little flaws. I have been convinced by this talk to go watch it again and see if I think differently now that I know how realistic it is. But we'll see. I'll report back.
Kirk, can you take Nicole's notes to Cameron, please?
Yeah, just a few notes.
From my point of view, pure gold, pure platinum, and in James Cameron Avatar world, pure unobtainium.
That's great.
Nice.
Just the realism from a diver's point of view, and yeah, he just hit it on the head.
Kirk, it was really exciting having you on this episode.
Thank you, Kirk.
Such cool stuff, learning about your career
you,
and learning about diving. Thanks so much for joining us. Do you want to tell us about your business before and how people can find you before we let you go?
Yeah, well, I'm transitioning into consulting from having worked at Deep, and I'm still involved in Performance Freediving International, and another company I work with is Aquatic Survival International, which is more the institutional military type training that we do. So yeah, you can find me Kirk .Krack, Krack, at performancefreediving.com or performancefreediving.com.
Amazing.
Great. Thank you.
And good luck with the dive today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great.
That
Thanks.
was incredible. You had some really great stories. It was really fun to listen to you.
Oh, good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Favorite guest ever.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
Bye. Thank you so much.